Overall, very good results. I mean, we're very happy with them, but we did have 3 mines basically which contributed to down in the gold production, and that was Kasasa-Letu, which we had an accident in, Mariespruit 1, which we closed slightly earlier than expected, and then Bambanani didn't quite perform. In total, those 3 operations, 880 kilograms down, so that was quite a big negative, but improving production from our newer assets, and they are ramping up, and that's very pleasing.
Well, just looking at the fiscal 2010 year, you produced 1.43 million ounces of gold. You do have a target of reaching 2 million ounces of gold by 2013. Now that you have closed one of the mines down and with a bit of luck, no issues coming to the fore with any of the operations due to accidents, do you think that you could reach that target and perhaps get closer to that number by the end of 2011?
Yeah, we're certainly working hard at it, and really this year we've got an estimate of production somewhere between 1.45 and 1.5 million ounces. But remember, these operations are ramping up quite dramatically. Hidden Valley's ramped up quite nicely. Hasn't got its full throughput yet, but the plant is operating well. Pakisa's ramping up nicely, Doornkorp's ramping up nicely. So really the target of 2 million ounces still in 2013, that's still our target.
Well, as you mentioned, Hidden Valley doing quite well. We saw production increase there by 23%. You also mentioned Doornkorp, an increase of 19%. Pakisa also doing very well, the likes of 34% increase. Also interesting to note, during the period we saw a nice increase in the gold price. Yes, in rand terms, wasn't as significant as what we saw in dollar terms, which was an increase of around 30%. In rand terms, an increase of around 6% or so. We are starting to see a slightly weaker rand as well, so that should assist the company's profits going forward too.
Certainly, the rand weakening slightly like that will certainly help us quite a lot, and probably as much as 10,000 rand a kilogram going forward. So, you know, at the moment I think the rand is somewhere closer to 313 or 314,000 rand a kilogram, which is 10,000 rand better than the last quarter.
Looking at the cost scenarios, cash operating costs are down around 10%, rand per kilogram cost decreasing by 5%. So you have seen that coming down. What can this be attributed to, given the fact that electricity is still on the top of the agenda going forward, and of course that is also going to rise? Wage negotiations still relatively rife in South Africa. Do you think that's a once-off thing that we could see, or do you think it's a trend that can be sustained?
Well, there's a few areas to our costs which I think we control very well. What is a big movement quarter on quarter, of course, is coming out of winter tariffs from the previous quarter. But even if you look at the detail, for instance, Kasasa-Letu, which actually had a bad quarter, we managed to get the cost down as well. So it's actually controlling the costs and creating sort of variable scenarios around your costs, and being able to control those very well. So as far as Harmony goes, I think we've got excellent management teams with good cost control.
The truth is, you've had a fantastic quarter, and some analysts out there, and perhaps the pessimists when it comes to the gold mining companies, say that yes, we see fantastic quarters within a very bad trend. What do you think the big issue is when it comes to South African gold operations? Because offshore operations out of South Africa seem to be doing and faring far better than what we see inland.
Yeah, there are various parameters that make South African gold mining a little bit different to offshore. We are very labor intensive. We don't run with large stockpiles. If you have an open pit, you obviously have a stockpile, and therefore if there are issues you can manage the stockpile and so on. So there are a few different things, but you know, Harmony has been transforming in the last few years and building up production from these new assets. They will be great mines in South Africa, and you know, these are some of the prime gold mines in South Africa and will be for many years to come.
Let's look at Wafi-Golpu drilling as well. That's continuing with promising prospects for the likes of copper and gold reserves as well. I mean, we saw copper hitting yes, $10,095 a ton. Tell us a little bit about Wafi-Golpu and your prospects for this operation.
Well, it keeps on growing quarter by quarter. What we've been doing in the last quarter is really stepping out towards the north and drilling holes in order to try and close off the ore body. In fact, every time we've stepped out 50 or 100 meters in the last just few step outs, we've actually intersected much better grades and a big ore body. So we haven't managed to close it off. Now that's good news because it is growing quarter by quarter. Certainly in the last while, we are in the area of starting the pre-feasibility, and therefore we need to close it out at some stage to actually better define the pre-feasibility. So we'll probably have a ore reserve statement in the next 3 to 6 months. Pre-feasibility hopefully be finished by the end of the calendar year, results early next year. And that will really show the size and the magnitude of this ore body. It's simply one of the highest grade operations, potential operations in future. It's showing that it's really got good gold and copper grades, and therefore it'll be a great mine in the future.
Graham, touching on the gold companies as a whole and just getting some of the sentiment that investors think about gold mines in South Africa, they are very concerned. They prefer to have exposure to the underlying gold, the physical gold, and have exposure to that. What is going to prompt more South African investors to head into the gold mining companies and buy into the share and buy into the gold story as well? Some are very averse to this.
Yeah, I think they probably are, and you know, gold has been doing well as a physical metal of late, but you don't get exposure to, you know, the various managements. You don't get exposure to the leverage that you can get in a gold share, and I think there's still some very good leverage in a gold mining company. For instance, in the case of Wafi-Golpu, I mean, that is something that's tremendous. It's going to grow, and shareholders will see the benefit of that in the future in the Harmony share price. So there are many sort of exposures that you get with management, with individual companies, that you don't get in the physical gold.
In dollar terms, where do you think the gold price is going to head this year? A lot of talk about inflation increasing significantly. We're seeing that coming through with food prices and, of course, other underlying metals as well, and a lot of concern as to where we're headed on a global level. This could prompt more investors to buy into gold. We saw it breach $1,400 last year. We are now slightly softer than that level.
I think I'm with the sort of the gold bulls of the world, in that gold will probably be in the region of 1,400 to 1,500 during this year. We see a slight weakening even more of the rand, so gold price in rand terms is going to be good. But you know, we're not seeing the people out there that say, you know, gold's going to go to 2,000 this year. I think people are looking a little bit more conservatively, but not seeing a declining gold price.
Graham, just overall the industry, we've got the Mining Indaba underway. A lot of talk about nationalising mines and whether that is going to be on top of the agenda. And also just taking a look at the likes of BHP Billiton, one of the most recent stories where we see them offloading their coal assets. Do you think it's going to increasingly become difficult to do business in South Africa from a mining perspective, and we could see the big names moving out of the country?
No, I think actually the opposite. I think during the Mining Indaba there will be a lot of foreign people here. There will be a lot of discussions. There will be the Minister of Mines having chats to various people. I think there will be more clarity on what the government stance is. I think there'll be more interest, and there'll be more company executives talking to each other and looking at potential deals. This is a world where a lot is being driven by resources, and I see there's going to be a lot of improved conversation around South Africa during the next few days.